With more of the weekend analysis, Villa Park is our next destination, where Villa made it 9 wins out of 10 by beating Arsenal. And the question we were asking about Villa very recently, up until really the last 2 games, was could this run of form continue while they weren't performing that well on the expected goals? Again, we always look at the underlying numbers to try and assess attacking performance, and this was their previous season average, down at 0.91. That is not a team that you would expect to be pushing into the top 3. That was actually bottom 2 for the Premier League this season. But look at the 2 figures above that. Jamie, this was a very different story for Aston Villa from those last 2 games.
Yeah, and then when people ask me, is it sustainable for Aston Villa? That's not, as you've just said, but that is. And when people are talking about Aston Villa for the league right now, I think that's a little bit premature. But what I would say is, these last 2 games, it was difficult to keep that run going. But you think of the champions last season, Liverpool's expected goals average for the whole game was whole season was 2.2. So if they continue that, which will be really difficult, of course, then they have got a chance for the league title.
But certainly creating big chances as well. You see that big leap to 5 against Arsenal, 6 against Brighton, and this is when we flip it to look at the perspective from Arsenal's defensive perspective, and you see the previous average shots that Arsenal have faced in a game this season. I'll go in again just to point that out. 7.2. Aston Villa at the weekend had 15 shots against Arsenal, triple the amount of shots on target faced, big chances faced. The average for Arsenal, which is miraculous anyway, 0.7, now leaping as high as 5 in that Aston Villa game, way above the previous high that Arsenal had faced this season. And this bottom line I'll draw your attention to as well. Opposition touches in the box. Previous average for Arsenal, 14.1. The previous high, 36. Aston Villa managed 43. How did they do this, Jamie?
Well, listen, it was a fantastic... Listen, it was a brilliant game by 2 top teams. But what I want to say before we start the clip is Arsenal supporters and the players will be devastated, disappointed, I get that. But they were without the best centre-back partnership in the league, and I think it cost them. And I'm going to look especially at the battle between Nketiah and Ollie Watkins. So when we just run this on now, and just look straight away, you can see them together. Big, powerful centre-forward. There's always already physical contact, right? Coming together. Maybe not used to that as much when you think of, you know, the country that he's come from, playing in the Bundesliga. But look, again, really aggressive against them, really tight. Getting up to the edge of the box. Now he loses him. Now he goes and finds him again. Just keep an eye on him. But he makes one error as a centre-back. And I know that position so well myself. Look, they're together. So Wright really gets him. What does he want to do in this position? He wants to get on the same line as the rest of his defenders and push up and not be left alone. So what he does in that position is, James, I just want you to come in. Now, if he wants to get up, you're Ollie Watkins, and I am aware that you've had an ACL injury, so you don't have to move. But if I'm fighting with my centre-forwards here, and the ball's there, and I want to get up to the edge of the box, right? I don't get up this way. Because when I get there, Ollie Watkins is that side of the ball, OK? When I push up and I'm fighting, if I'm going to get up and try and leave him offside, I've got to get up in front of him, in there. Because the ball's there, and if a cross comes in, I'm first. And if Ollie Watkins is going to make a run, he's got to come past me. I can block him, I can stop him. So we just run it on, and you see where he goes now. He runs on the outside of him. OK? So now he's in a position there with Ollie Watkins in a bad position. Also, Eze, this is the last time he looks at Matty Cash. And probably one of the reasons why he comes off, because Matty Cash had a great chance before this, and obviously we know he gets the goal. So he's at fault as well. But I think if Nketiah is in a better position, the other side of Ollie Watkins, when I think it's Pau Torres on the ball with that far side, he sees Ollie Watkins, and Ollie Watkins then makes that...
Mikel Arteta to make 6 Arsenal changes versus Club Brugge as Viktor Gyokeres starts. Arsenal take on Club Brugge on the road in Wednesday's Champions League clash. The Gunners saw their 18-match unbeaten streak end after a dramatic 2-1 Premier League defeat at Aston Villa last weekend. The club's focus will now turn to the Champions League, where they are scheduled to face Club Brugge at the Jan Breydel Stadium. We anticipate manager Mikel Arteta to make at least 6 changes, given the heavy workload over the past few months. The likes of Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi, and Bukayo Saka should be given breathers on the bench. Arsenal are presently top of the league phase of the Champions League with 15 points, 3 ahead of the chasing pack. The game offers Arteta a perfect opportunity to rotate his squad and keep key players fresh for future challenges. Here are 6 changes Arteta could make. Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back. Ricardo Calafiori is suspended for the Premier League game against Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday after picking up his 5th yellow card of the campaign at Villa Park. Miles Lewis-Skelly will replace Calafiori at left back this weekend. We also anticipate him to start against Club Brugge, having made the first 11 in 3 of the previous 4 European games. Calafiori was spotted leaving Villa Park with a quite pronounced limp, as per James Benge. We believe the Italian should only come on as a substitute for Lewis-Skelly in midweek if required. Christian Norgard and Ethan Nwaneri in midfield. Declan Rice made a stunning 21 defensive contributions against Villa last weekend. He looked absolutely jaded and distraught after the last gasp loss. He should be completely rested. The Englishman has started regularly for Arsenal in every competition this term and has been ever present for the Three Lions too. It appears the ideal game to keep him out of the 11. Similarly, Martin Zubimendi and Martin Odegaard should be given breathers. Odegaard has just returned from a 3rd injury of this season, and we won't be surprised if he features on the bench. We anticipate Christian Norgard to come in for Zubimendi in the number 6 role. Mikel Merino could drop into central midfield on Wednesday, with Ethan Nwaneri operating as the attacking midfielder. There could be a new-look front 3 against the Belgian outfit. As said previously, we would keep Saka on the bench. This would obviously mean Noni Madueke getting the nod on the right wing. The former Chelsea man scored his maiden Gunners goal in the 3-1 win over Bayern Munich last Sunday. Viktor Gyokeres looks poised to make his first start in over a month after 3 substitute appearances. The Swede has a big point to prove, having found himself playing second fiddle to Merino up front lately. Eberechi Eze had a forgettable outing on Saturday, and his poor man marking contributed to Matty Cash's opening goal. He was substituted at the halftime interval along with Merino. Eze could likewise start on the bench on Wednesday as part of the rotation. We fancied Gabriel Martinelli to get the nod on the left wing ahead of Leandro Trossard, who does not appear fully fit. The Belgian continued his brilliant form with an 11th goal contribution of the season at Villa Park. Despite being a substitute, he was taken off in the 86th minute as he was feeling his calf. The 31-year-old is unlikely to be risked from the starting 11 against Club Brugge. Martinelli has been a revelation in the Champions League this season, scoring in each of his 4 appearances. Elsewhere, David Raya, Ben White, Jerian Timber, and Piero Hincapié are expected to keep their places. Gabriel Magalhaes, Christian Mosquera, and Kai Havertz are sidelined until the new year with injuries, but it is still uncertain whether William Saliba will be fit to return on Wednesday night. Arsenal powerhouse is fast becoming their worst signing since Fabio Vieira. Arsenal have been almost faultless this season, but on Sunday their unbeaten run finally came to an end. Mikel Arteta's side once again came unstuck at the hands of Unai Emery's Aston Villa and now sit just 2 points clear of Manchester City atop the Premier League table. It wasn't a dreadful showing from the league leaders, but it was a disappointing and potentially worrying one. Moreover, it was another game in which a particular player flattered to deceive. A player who could end up being Arteta's worst signing since Fabio Vieira. What went wrong for Fabio Vieira at Arsenal? Arsenal fans largely remember the summer of 2022 as the window when Gabriel Jesus and Oleksandr Zinchenko arrived from Manchester City and helped the team on their first title charge in a generation. However, that summer also saw the club sign Vieira from Porto for around $34 million. And while it was a surprise move, it was an exciting one. After all, the Portuguese midfielder had just come off a campaign in which he produced 23 goal involvements in 39 games. Unfortunately, aside from the odd moment of brilliance, the Santa Maria de Feira-born talent failed to make much of a mark during his first season in North London, racking up a tally of just 2 goals and 6 assists in 33 first-team appearances. Things would only get worse the following season, as a combination of injuries, poor form, and suspensions limited him to just 16 appearances in which he scored 1 goal and provided 4 assists. With 2 disappointing campaigns under his belt in as many years, the 25-year-old was sent back to Porto on loan for 24-25, where he did improve but only marginally, and ended the season with a tally of 11 goal involvements in 42 games. The Portuguese Giants did not want to bring their player back on a permanent deal this year, and so with few other options, the Gunners agreed to send him on another loan, this time to Hamburg, with an option to buy. In all, it's clear that Vieira is a talented player, but it's equally clear he is not, and never was, good enough to play for Arsenal. Worryingly, the same might be eventually said about another of Arteta's signings, someone who could go down as his worst since the Portuguese midfielder, lest he improve, and quickly. Arsenal star in danger of becoming Arteta's worst signing since Vieira. Overall, it would be fair to say that Arsenal's summer business this year was a success. The likes of Eberechi Eze, Martin Zubimendi, and Noni Madueke, for example, have all looked good to great so far. However, there is one signing who has divided opinion more than any other and is in danger of being labeled a flop if he doesn't improve, and quickly. Viktor Gyokeres. Now before the pitchforks and torches come out, there is every chance the Swedish international will prove his doubters wrong and become the goal-scoring monster Arsenal needs him to be. Unfortunately, there have been few signs of that happening so far this season. For example, in 17 appearances, so far the former Sporting powerhouse forward, as dubbed by analyst Ben Mattinson, has scored just 6 goals, which is not terrible, but it's not enough for someone who wants to lead the line for a title-winning side. Moreover, the game against Villa on Saturday was another one in which he failed to stamp his authority on things. The 27-year-old came on at halftime, but in his 50 minutes of action, he took just 11 touches, lost the ball 6 times, completed 4 passes, failed to take a single shot or create a single big chance. It was a worrying display, and one that could easily see the likes of Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus leapfrog him in the pecking order when they are fully fit. Ultimately, while there is time for him to make his mark on this team, Gyokeres has underdelivered for Arsenal this year and is in real danger of becoming Arteta's worst permanent signing since Vieira.